I'm Carol Hillestead. I'm so glad to be here right about the watershed divide between the Bushkill and the Brodhead Creek with Daryl Spiker, who is, anyone who knows him knows that he is one of the most accomplished birders on the planet. And what we are talking about today is how forested land protects water, but also provides living space, habitat for countless different creatures. And Daryl and Jackie know those creatures better than just about anybody. So Daryl's going to be talking about habitat and the birds who live here and why we should care about it.
Thank you, Carol. Well, this is the old Camp William Penn site, and one of the great things about this, and I've always been a big silver lining kind of guy, so where are the silver linings? And I was persona non gratis in my own community about 12 years ago when I was against spraying for the gypsy moth. Yeah. It wasn't that I was a fan of gypsy moths. I'm not a fan of gypsy moths. I just talked about the futility of these spray programs, because once populations get that high, they're going to defoliate the forest. And here at Camp William Penn, this part of Camp William Penn, we now see the results of that 12 years later. Here we have an incredible habitat for some of the rarest birds in North America, unfortunately, because of habitat loss. So this has now afforded an opportunity for golden-winged warblers to come back to the Poconos, for whippoorwills to come back to the Poconos. It's an ideal habitat for birds like that. And hopefully our state bird, the ruffed grouse, because this is ideal. This is perfect grouse habitat. This is exactly what they're looking for. In the breeding season, ideal place for chestnut-sided warbler, Prairie Warbler. Even though its name is Prairie Warbler, they don't like the prairie. This is what they like back in here. Black and white warblers, common yellow throats, just a whole slew of incredible breeding birds are going to use this.
So what we've seen after the gypsy moth did their damage, there were still some oaks that survived. I'm looking at one right over here, nice size one. And then all of this other beautiful stuff.
Oh yeah, gypsy moths, I like to say that gypsy moths will kill the trees. They'll kill trees, but not forests. The forest is very resilient. The forest is going to come back, and when you have several severely impacted acres over a couple of seasons, growing seasons, you will get some, particularly oak. Up here it was chestnut oak and white oak were the two big ones that were hit the hardest. So the state came in, they did salvage cutting, and they also did habitat manipulation, because one of the great things about the Pennsylvania State Forest system is they recognize that our forests are more than just standing lumber. Yes, it's primarily managed for forestry products, but that a truly functioning forest is more than just the products that we can make out of it. And so they manage not just for wildlife, but they manage for species diversity, not just of the wildlife, but the trees themselves. And so when there are situations where certain species start to take over, they'll go in and they'll do what they call canopy crown openings. So they'll go in and they'll cut down some of the young stuff to allow some of the trees, the real prize trees that they want to come back, to be able to fill in the canopy there. One of the other really cool things about visiting this site, and it's again a habitat thing and not necessarily specifically a bird thing, but we're probably most of us familiar now with the plight of the American chestnut tree and what happened. At one time here in the Poconos, it was the most common hardwood tree in our forest. America was built out of chestnut wood, and then, like many other things, an alien invader came from Asia, a fungal disease that came on the Chinese and the Korean chestnut trees that we brought to North America. And within 20 years of recognizing that there was an issue, the American chestnuts, mature American chestnuts were gone from our forests. But those chestnut trees still have living root systems. And so you could get to a high point and look out and just see that there's a chestnut, there's a chestnut, there's a chestnut, there's a chestnut. Unfortunately, by the time the chestnuts get to be as big as your wrist, they catch the blight and die. But so all of that is still out there waiting for its opportunity till eventually it becomes chestnut or blight resistant, and the rootstock is out there. So it's just a great place to come in and explore habitats here at Camp William Penn.
Thanks a lot, Daryl.
You're welcome, Carol. All right, welcome to the old Camp William Penn property here on the Monroe County Pike border. It's off of Snow Hill Road, right in the corner of Snow Hill Road, and it's a great place to go birding. And my wife Jackie and I are going to take you birding today, virtual birding tour of the Camp William Penn property. One of the reasons that I wanted to come here is because of the great diversity of habitats. In a very short hike, we can visit old open meadows, a pond, a stream, mature forest, and secondary forest, new growth forest that's just coming in. And this diversity of habitats means that we have the opportunity to see a great number of bird species in a very short period of time. It's bluets, and there's several different species of them. Ooh, pair of goldfinches. This is one of the exciting things about birding in August, is you get to see all this interaction between families of birds. So we have a young goldfinch here that's still begging for food. It's fledged from the nest, but it's chasing its parent around, fluttering its wings. I really love to take the time just to sit here and watch the behaviors. It's not just that we can see a lot of different birds, but historically they preferred to line their nests with thistledown. So they wouldn't even start the nesting process until after the thistle had already gone to seed. Ooh, a beauty. Yeah, is that the Halloween pennant is the name of this dragonfly right here, with the orange and brown wings with the dark brown wing patches in it. Yeah, the Halloween pennant. Bluets. Yeah, just like the flowers have the name bluets. Those little tiny blue damselflies, as a whole family, they're just bluets. And there's several different species of them. Oh, and these dead snags can be great places to look for birds. Especially the cedar waxwings. They love to hang out over here.
Well, you know, the landscape gardener would say they've all got to come down, but
right.
But
you got to clean up the place.
Clean up the place, but
right. Critical component of good habitat is standing deadwood.
That's where I captured the hole.
Yeah. You need to provide for every stage of wildlife cycles, annual cycles of life, and so providing nesting cover. And for their secondary cavity nesters, a lot of people don't think about this, but And they're not all just birds. So you've got woodpeckers, they come in, they're the construction crew, they're going to actually make the nesting cavities, but then that means there's now available space for nuthatches and bluebirds and flying squirrels. So again, here on the snag, an immature red-tailed hawk has just flown in and perched on that snag. Oh, and there it goes. So it's gonna, oh excellent, so it banked for us so we can see it, and the leading edge of a red-tailed hawk is dark, the leading edge of their wing, and it's the only one of the hawks in all of North America that has that very, very diagnostic field mark. Oh, now we've stumbled upon another immature hawk, and nice, narrow, long, round tail. So this is the Cooper's hawk. I love how it's perching on one leg, you know, everybody thinks of flamingos doing that, but a lot of birds will do this as resting posture. They'll just tuck one leg up under their bellies and sit there on one foot. And this, again, is another immature bird, and you may have noticed on the red tail in flight, the very heavy streaking on the breast. All of our raptors, all of our hawks are going to have that very heavy streaking on the breast. Barn swallow out flying around. There's an old gazebo here down by or pavilion down by the pond, and the barn swallows nest in it. So that's another nice reason for coming out here. Still barn swallows. I didn't know if they had been joined by some tree swallows, but.
And how would you tell the difference?
Well, tree swallows are clean white from their chin all the way to their tails. And the barn swallows have orange breast. Barn swallows also have a very deeply forked tail. Tree swallows have a forked tail, but not as deeply forked as that.
I want to see it's domestic duck.
Oh no, it's a mallard.
Male mallard.
Yeah. Yeah, bright green iridescent head. Unfortunately, some of the very familiar birds that people just take for granted are unbelievably beautiful birds, but we just take them for granted. It's unfortunate that we take them for granted, not unfortunate that they're abundant and we see them everywhere. But we do, we just tend to...
Yeah, oh, another mallard.
Oh, well, yesterday after the storm ended, I had a robin hopping in the yard in the bright sunshine, you know, all the grass glistening around it, and just the richness of the color of its breast and the bright yellow of its beak. And yeah, it's an incredibly beautiful bird. But
well, I think this pond is interesting because instead of phragmites, there's cattails along the edge.
yeah,
Which is kind of
yeah.
makes you happy to see that there's the native plants are.
One of the other reasons for choosing this location is because we have this excellent freshwater habitat right behind us here. The pond, now the pond was man-made. It's not a natural pond, but the border of the pond is still fairly pristine. There's not a lot of invasive species here, so we've got stand of cattails towards the outlet. On the inlet of this pond, just above the inlet, we're going to have a beaver dam. So beaver activity, and it's created another impoundment above that. And of course, during waterfowl migration, it's just a great place, great quiet place to come and see a lot of different kinds of waterfowl. Right now, there's mallard across the way. Occasionally a great blue heron. Kingfishers might stop by, so it's And then of course there's all the value just in the water itself. So when the swallows are zooming around, taking insects off the surface of the water, you'll occasionally see them hit the water. It makes a little ripple. So just standing over water, and now that we're so fortunate to live in a place that has so many bald eagles and nesting bald eagles back, you never know when an eagle's going to show up, an osprey might show up. So it's a great addition to the property here. Just another one of those habitats that makes this such a great place to visit. Hickories are going to start falling. There's the fall webworm. So in the spring, we get tent caterpillars. And the tent caterpillars, primarily you're going to find tent caterpillars on fruit trees, cherries, if you have crab apples in your yard, something like that. And they're going to build their nests here at the axis where all the twigs come together. And then they build their nest here, and that's tent caterpillars. They leave the tent to go feed, and then they go back there. The fall webworms, on the other hand, encircle everything in their silken tents. Everything they're going to feed on and everything, they put it all in there and they feed on that. Yeah, and they tend to prefer all of these trees with compound leaves. So hickory, walnut, you'll see them in black walnut, butternut trees.
It's nice because it's a nice little consolidation of nesting material and food.
Yeah, so
The bedroom and the kitchen.
yeah, people will often ask, what are those little tiny caterpillars? You know, you'll see a silkworm or a little inchworm hanging by a thread down here off the leaf, and they'll be like, oh, what's that? And I say, bird food. Of course, what is it? It's bird food.
So here's the outlet from the...
Yep, here's the pond's outlet. And there's a little trail that just goes down along the outlet here. But this is ideal spot for a green heron. This would be perfect. So there's an old purple martin house on the other side of this pond that will never attract purple martins. Purple martins need to be able to access their condominiums. They need to be able to access from 360 degrees. So that one's up against that tree line. There's no way purple martins are gonna... There's actually a Purple Martin Society, and they recommend 40 feet from any tall trees or structures so that the purple martins have easy access to it. Ooh. So that noise mimics a natural distress or alarm call, and birds can be attracted to it to see what the issue is. It's called pishing, and Pete Dunn, the former director of the Cape May Bird Observatory, cedar waxwings. Cedar waxwings, that's another incredibly beautiful bird. If you ever get a chance to see one up close, the cedar waxwing's plumage is silky, smooth, perfect. You cannot distinguish where one feather ends and the other one begins. And as a bird bander, even if you're holding it in your hand, you can't. They just look molded. And they're cinnamon, no, not a little darker than cinnamon brown on back, yellow bellies. The tip of their tail is bright yellow, and they have a little crest like a cardinal, and a black mask over their eyes. So they're really, but they have that very, very high pitched see. Oh, catbirds love the pishing. They're one of the first birds to come in when you start pishing. They started to mention Pete Dunn. Pete Dunn wrote a book called The Art of Pishing, which, when it works, is unbelievably effective, and people are like, ooh, he's the bird whisperer. When it doesn't work, you're just some guy out in the bushes fishing. Yeah. Just stopping to fish in the bushes over there. Jackie, Carol, and I really want to thank you for coming along on our virtual bird walk today. And if you got excited by this and you want to go out and do your own birding, there's 3 tips for bird watching. Of course, it helps to have optics, binoculars, something that'll bring the birds a little bit closer. But when you've got them, you can't just be out there randomly trying to look through your binoculars. So we birders like to say the 3 steps to finding birds in your binoculars. The first one's hearing, so ears. So you hear, right now I hear downy woodpecker chipping in the trees, so I hear the woodpecker. Then eyes, so now I'm going to look for the woodpecker. Oh, and there it is. And then once you've got it, then you put your binoculars up. And it's oh wow, it's a female. So female downy woodpeckers lack the bright red spot on the back of their head. So ears, eyes, binoculars. Hear it, see it, and bring it closer. So thanks again for joining us today. Good birding.